Am I the butthole for wanting my son to give part of his inheritance to his younger half-brother? My husband, Matt, 52M, and I, 46F, have 3 children, a son Andrew, 24, and 2 daughters, ages 12 and 8. When Andrew was growing up, I felt a bit trapped in the role of a stay-at-home mom. Matt was, and still is, a great father and earned more than enough to afford all the necessities and some luxuries too. We had just purchased a new Infiniti which Matt had picked out, but I wasn't happy and was seriously considering asking for a divorce. One day I was involved in a minor fender bender while out shopping. I was driving our still fairly new car and Andrew was with me. None of us were hurt, but neither of the doors on the passenger side of the car could be opened. Andrew was understandably upset, and so was Matt. The guy who hit me, Raul, was actually very nice. We exchanged contact info, and honestly I really enjoyed talking to him. So I began seeing him whenever Matt and Andrew weren't home. Honestly, I was happier than I had been in a long time, but I eventually felt guilty. I told Raul that I wanted to work on my marriage. So we broke up. I confessed everything to Matt, and he agreed to go to counseling. Around this time, I found out I was pregnant with a baby boy. We did a prenatal DNA test, and it showed that Matt was not the father. I decided to give my son up for adoption after he was born, so that's what we did. Matt and I then had our 2 daughters. I've always felt guilty about the adoption, so a few years ago I did a DNA test and found my son, Diego. I was horrified to learn that grew up in foster care and had an unhappy childhood. He always wanted to know his biological parents. He found Raul and has a good relationship with him. I told Diego that I wish things had been different. Matt's parents, who passed away in 2021 and 2022, left half of their estate to Andrew, and the other half was to be divided between our 2 daughters. To be honest, I thought this was unfair, but it's the way they wanted to do it. The girls will receive their portion of the estate when they turn 18. I have yet to begin distributing the money to Andrew, and the reason why is that I feel strongly that half of his portion should go to Diego. I have told Andrew that I would give half of his portion to Diego because it's the least we can do to make up for the fact that I should never have given him up. He's my son, and the only reason why I gave him up is because I thought it's what I needed to do to save my marriage, but he's had a really hard life as a result. Matt has taken Andrew's side, saying that not only is this unfair, but it's against what his parents wrote in their wills. I know that there's the legal aspect, but there's also the moral aspect of me wanting to make up for a mistake I made when I was in a bad place. Matt is now threatening divorce, while Andrew has saying some really horrible things about both me and Diego to pretty much anyone who will listen. Is what I'm asking such an unreasonable request? Am I the butthole for telling friends that my girlfriend, F33, writes fanfiction? My girlfriend, Sandra, F33, and I, M35, have been together for about a year now. We're not living together yet, but we've talked about this. We're both working in respectable fields. The other day, I was out with some mates, and after our night, I was slightly tipsy and I thought of surprising Sandra, of course a fake name, as I have keys to her flat. When I got there, I noticed she was asleep on the couch and her laptop was on the coffee table. She hates sleep mode, so she disabled it so her laptop was on, not even locked. She had a Word document, and it seemed she's been working on it. I caught some words and couldn't help myself. I started reading. I took the laptop to the kitchen to not wake her up. Turns out it was romantic fanfiction about one of her favorite TV series. Nothing steamy, just some silly, girly, romantic notions kind of BS. You know, the ones teenage girls dream of, and then realize no man actually behaves like that. It's like no Susan, I ain't touching the small of your back because you're cute, not catching those harassment allegations, if you know what I mean. I was curious and desired to spy a little bit to see if she'd written more, and discovered her accounts on 2 platforms for fanfiction. Had no idea those sites were that huge. Anyway, she's written a lot of them. All cutesy, girly crap and some naughty stuff again. Unrealistic in my opinion. When she woke up in the morning, I confronted her about this and she was defensive and started going on about privacy and stuff. I told her to cut the crap and to admit that she feels dissatisfied about our relationship and that's why she's writing, and I gave her a reality check and said her soft men she writes were unrealistic. She was really angry and kicked me out. I told her I'm not one of her characters and won't tolerate her mood swings, but she still kicked me out. Later that day, we were meeting our friends for lunch. Sandra came but barely spoke to me. At some point, we were talking about something and I mentioned what Sandra writes, hoping that people will laugh, and one guy did. The rest just ignored my news, which kind of surprised me. I tried to continue the topic and understand why everyone seemed okay with the cringe, but Sandra called me in butthole and went to the bathroom. My friend told me it would be best if I left, but I didn't want to do so because didn't do anything bad. When Sandra came back, she told me her writing is her private thing and I'm in butthole for bringing it up. I told her to grow up and call me when she comes to her senses, but she hasn't called me since. I told my other friends, and they agreed with me that what Sandra writes is cringe and should have been called out, and they don't think I am the butthole, so I'm still confused about my other friends' reaction. I need impartial opinion. Am I the butthole for telling my friends? Am I the butthole for kicking my 16-year-old daughter out the house for disrespecting her stepmom? I'm a 40-year-old father who's had primary custody of my 16-year-old daughter, and we shared a close and strong father-daughter relationship. However, things have taken a challenging turn for the worse since I moved my new wife and her 13-year-old daughter into our home. My daughter has been quite vocal about her dissatisfaction with my wife's efforts to be a mother figure and the way she tries to assert authority over her. She feels uncomfortable with my wife's attempts to take on a motherly role. Additionally, my daughter believes that I've been treating my stepdaughter better than her. I don't believe I have, which has led to a significant amount of resentment. We've had multiple arguments about these issues, and it has reached a point where our household was constantly tense. We recently got into another heated argument due to my daughter cursing her stepmother out, calling her the B word, and in a moment of frustration, I suggested to my daughter that if she couldn't find a way to coexist peacefully with my wife and her stepsister, it might be best for her to move in with her mother. As a result, my daughter has gone to live with her mother, and both of us are dealing with a lot of emotional pain and distance between us. I never intended to kick her out, and I miss her terribly, but I thought it might be the best solution to prevent further conflicts in our new family dynamic. Am I the butthole for making this decision? Am I the butthole for banning my sister from family parties because of her attitude towards kids? I, 41M, am the oldest of 5. My sister, Vera, 31F, is the third child. Our parents are long dead. Now, my sister was always the quiet one. She never interacted with us much as a child. Instead, she spent most time in her room, reading. She barely spoke, and when she did, she had different conversation topics. She was gifted, I get it, but we were kids and got bored when she talked, so we just didn't get along. Fast forward, Vera Nos works optimizing administrative processes for big companies. She's very authoritative, strategic, and overconfident. Even her boyfriend would not take a business or financial decision without consulting her first because he's convinced she's the holy grail of management. I get it. She's good at what she does, has a big salary, and has good connections, but she's just a bit much. One point here is that Vera is the only sibling who has no kids, and apparently her boyfriend got a vasectomy a few months ago. Good for him. Thing is, when we gather at our childhood home, all my siblings bring along their kids. Kids are kids. They are loud and like to play. They are sensitive too. Vera doesn't seem to understand this. She greets the kids from a distance, never hugs them, and if one of them comes to her, she will keep them at arm's length, will be polite but way too serious and somehow cold with them. Neither my siblings nor me like this, or the way she will refuse to do uppies with the toddlers or just refuse to play along with the older kids who want to make questions, or just talk like kids do. Let alone will watch the kids even for 15 minutes, would not ask more from her. Anyway, her behavior got worse after the last family gathering. She brought along her laptop because she had some work to do, and one of the kids dropped it accidentally, damaging the screen. She went totally ballistic and demanded my youngest sister, who is a single mom living on welfare at the moment, paid the repair. After some reasoning, she dropped the subject, but then she proceeded to stay even further away from the kids. Hence, I spoke to my siblings and concluded it was best if we didn't invite her over for the next gathering. That was this weekend. I knew she would see the photos on Instagram, but I so hoped she would see how her attitude had isolated her and would learn a lesson. Boy, I was wrong. She sent me a short, dead cold message asking why she wasn't invited. I told her the reason and told her we expected her to behave like a member of the family if she wanted to be treated like family. She responded, "Okay," and proceeded to block us everywhere. Not only her boyfriend did too. Apparently, she also blocked other members of our family who proceeded to send angry audios and messages to me and my siblings about it. Am I the butthole? Just wanted to keep the kids on a friendly environment and expected her to be an adult. Am I the butthole for stealing from my 17-year-old stepdaughter? I, 46M, have been married to my wife Amanda, 41F, for 6 years. When Amanda and I met, she had 2 children from a previous relationship, Chloe, 17F, and Marcus, 15M. Despite their father being absent, the children have never viewed me as a parental figure, which does not bother me, as although I love their mother, I don't see them as my children or feel any love for them. They're good kids, just not mine. Earlier this year, Chloe expressed her desire to move out at the end of the year. I did not think she could realistically afford to move out. Her mother and I both work long hours, so Chloe leaving would mean I would most likely have to hire help or cut down my working hours, as she does a lot to help out at home, so her leaving would not be ideal. I handle all household expenses, so in order to deter her from leaving, I suggested she try paying a portion of the bills/home expenses to get an idea of what living alone will be like. Her and her mother both agreed this would be a wonderful idea, and so we drew up an agreement that she would pay of the bills and household expenses, and her mother and I would stop financially supporting her. I thought this would be enough for her to change her mind. However, she was able to afford this comfortably. I decided to lie to her and tell her that due to inflation, our bills and expenses had risen greatly, and she would owe me an extra $150 a month. My hope was that even if she could still afford to pay me, she would not be able to simultaneously save enough money to move out. Recently, her brother Marcus was doing a school project that required him to analyze our family's electricity, gas, water, etc. usage. I foolishly allowed him access to my study to look over our past bills. At some stage, he asked his sister to assist him in his work. When she was looking over the bills, it came to her attention that I had been overcharging her for some time. She worked out roughly how much money I overcharged her and went to her mother with this number. They are now calling me a butthole for stealing her hard-earned money and are demanding I return the money. I don't think it's fair to call it hard-earned when most of it is inheritance from her father's passing. I had her best interest in mind and think I was just teaching her how the world works. So am I the butthole? Edit. Thank you everyone for your helpful suggestions. I will be putting the sum she estimated I overcharged her into an account and will tell her I was saving it as a surprise. Hopefully she doesn't come across this post. A response to some common themes in the comments. I would like to make it clear I have never cleaned my home and will not be starting now. I do not like the noise of the vacuum or the smell of cleaning products. Maybe I went too far by saying I have no love for my stepchildren. I want to make it clear that I like them, they just annoy me as they're not my blood. Edit 2. You all need to get a life. Edit 3. I aged down everyone for privacy reasons, which was my mistake. Many people are concerned Chloe is a minor. I would like to make it clear she is in fact older, however, still do not wish to reveal her age for anonymity's sake. Am I the butthole for calling my wife selfish for leaving our son with a sitter? I'm away from home a lot of the time due to work commitments, which is tough because I don't have as much time as I would like to spend with my family, and although I try to talk with them as much as possible when I'm away, communication is limited. Recently, I found out that my wife has been hiring a sitter occasionally for our son when I'm away, so that she can go out to dinner with friends. It came as a surprise to me because we usually plan these things together when I'm at home. I appreciate the effort she puts into taking care of our son while I'm gone, but I work long hours during my trips, and learning about the sitter arrangement left me feeling pretty annoyed with her. I asked her why she had never told me before, and she said that it just never came up because we only talk in short spurts, and she didn't think it would be an issue because we usually get a sitter for a night when I come home. I told her that it isn't right and she's wasting money selfishly because she gets breaks during the day and after our son goes to bed, and it's wrong to leave him when I have to work 24/7 on business trips. I told her I didn't want her to do it again, but she got upset because she didn't think it was fair.